Here's your lesson on dividing fractions. You need your notes page opened up in Notability and be ready to go to that to record the notes from this lesson. So the what page, the first section of your notes. Your learning target is I can divide fractions. Also in the what section, you've got a vocabulary spot. You're going to need to put in the definition of a reciprocal. A reciprocal is a fraction that has been flipped over. That's not the official definition, but that's one that'll make sense to you. So, here are some examples. The reciprocal of 3/5 is 5/3. The reciprocal of 2.5 would be the reciprocal of the improper fraction of 2.5. If you turn 2.5 into an improper fraction, it equals 5/2. And you get that by multiplying 2 times 2 plus the 1 and getting 5. And it's over 2 because 2 is the denominator. Now the reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5. So if you have a mixed number, which you shouldn't have on your lesson today, but you will later, if you have a mixed number, turn it to an improper fraction first, like that, and then flip it, and that's the reciprocal. If you have a whole number, like the reciprocal of 8, you have to find the reciprocal of 8, you need to write it as a fraction first, and any whole number as a fraction has a denominator of 1. So the whole number goes over 1. So 8 over 1 would have a reciprocal of 1/8. One of the official ways to say what a reciprocal is, or the official definition, would be two numbers are reciprocals of each other if their product equals 1 whole. Now this may not make sense to you right now, but don't worry about it. But if you look at these two fractions, 3/5 and 5/3, what would you get if you multiplied those together? If you did 3 times 5, which is 15, and 5 times 3, which is 15, you get 15 over 15, which equals 1 whole. 15 shaded in, 15 in the whole thing shaded in. If you multiply these two numbers, which are reciprocals of each other, you get 10/10, which is also equal to 1 whole. If you multiply 8 over 1 times 1 over 8, you get 8 over 8, which also equals 1 whole. So reciprocals have a product of 1. Okay? Now, on your notes page, in the right-hand column, give an example of the reciprocal of 5/6. You're going to need to write it out in words. The reciprocal of 5/6 equals, and then answer it. So go ahead and pause the video and go do that. All right, moving on. The next vocabulary word you need to know, so this also goes in the vocabulary section, is reduce. You need to write the definition of reduce. It means to divide the numerator and denominator of a fraction by a common factor. So if I was going to reduce 6/8, I'm going to divide the numerator and the denominator by a common factor, which means by a number that I can divide both 6 and 8 by, or a number that goes into both 6 and 8. I know that they're both even, so I could divide them both by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I would check to see if it's completely reduced. So I'd check to see if there's a common factor of 3 and 4. The only common factor of 3 and 4 is 1. And if I divided by 1, I would get 3/4. So there's no point in doing that. So let's not divide by that. Let's just leave it as 3/4. Okay, so if I'm going to reduce 9 over 21, I can't divide those both by 2, but that's not the only possible common factor. 9 has other factors, and so does 21. The factors of 9, just to give you a quick example, are 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. So it's really 3 different factors, 1, 3, and 9. The factors of 21 are 1 and 21 and 3 and 7, because factors multiply to make a number, so that has 4 factors. Of those factors, the common factor I could divide them both by is 3. So I'm going to divide 9 by 3 and 21 by 3, and that gives me 3/7. When I look at 3 and 7, there are no more common factors other than 1, so that's simplified. Now let's reduce 6/30. You can see they're both even, so a good first step would be to divide them both by 2, and that gives me 3/15. I'm going to check to see if I can keep going. I can, because there's still a common factor of 3. I can divide these each by 3 and get 1/5. When I do 2 divisions to simplify or to reduce, that means that I could have used 1 division, because instead of dividing by 2 and then 3, I could have just divided by 6 the first time. And 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. But it's not important that you choose the biggest common factor to divide by. It's okay to do it in steps like I did here. Okay, so here's an example for you to put into your what section under the examples, and show me that you know how to reduce 12/15. Okay, so that should be good for the what section. Now we're going to go to the why section. In the why section, this is why we divide fractions. We divide fractions for the same reason that we divide any numbers. It's to create equal groups, or to find out how many equal groups we can make. So dividing is all about equal groups. So that needs to go in your why section. In the example box on your why section, you need to include some times that you would divide. You might divide to find out how many 1/3 there are in 2.5. To do that, you would have to do 2.5 divided by 1/3. That would tell you how many of these there are in this. An actual, more real-life situation would be if you have a board that is 8 feet long and you cut it into sections that are 2/3 of a foot long. How many sections could you make? In that case, you're starting with a board that's 8 feet long, and you're seeing how many 2/3 there are in that 8-foot section. So it would be 8 divided by 2/3. Okay? Those are times that you want to divide to figure out how many times a fraction can go into another number. All right. So come up with another example and put it in your notes. All right, last section, we're going to go to the how section. It's probably the one you need the most. So, how to divide fractions. Okay, to divide fractions, like 2/3 divided by 7/9, we write down the division problem horizontally. Okay, not a great example, but we'll do it anyway. So we write down the problem horizontally, and that means like this. We use this division sign, and we write it like this. I like to use fraction bars that go straight across, not this. Oh, not the slanted ones, because we're going to end up flipping the numbers over, and it's more obvious to me how to flip if you have a flat fraction bar. Anyway, that's the first step. You write them down horizontally. Step number 2, you're going to rewrite the problem and change it into a multiplication problem by multiplying the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So what that means is I'm going to take my original problem and I'm going to write it as the first fraction times the reciprocal of the second fraction. The reciprocal of 7/9 is 9/7. Okay, so here, if you remember how to multiply fractions, you can multiply 2 times 9 and get 18, 3 times 7 and get 21. All right? And that's a correct answer, except it's not the way we're going to leave it, because step 3 says that once you have the answer, you need to reduce the fraction to its lowest terms. So we're going to take 18 over 21, and we're going to divide it by common factors until it's in lowest terms. 18 and 21 have a factor of 3, so I'm able to divide them both by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 21 divided by 3 is 7. That's the final answer because I know I can't divide any further. If simplifying or reducing fractions, doing this, is difficult for you, that would be a great thing to put in your personal goals. Just practice that skill, reducing fractions or simplifying fractions. All right, so here are some examples. 4/7 divided by 1/2. I would turn that into 4/7. Notice that the first fraction stays the same, times the reciprocal of 1/2, which is 2 over 1. I multiply them. 4 times 2 is 8. 7 times 1 is 7. I see if I can simplify or reduce. Simplify and reduce mean the same thing. I can't because there's no common factors other than 1. So I'm going to leave it as 8/7. It is okay to leave it as an improper fraction. Okay? You don't have to turn this into a mixed number, even though it does equal 1 and 1/7. It's not what we're working on right now, so I would just leave it like this. Okay? Another example, 3/4 divided by 5/4. That's going to equal 3/4 times the reciprocal of 5/4, which is 4/5. That equals 12/20 when I multiply the numerator and denominator. These I could divide by 2. I also see that you could divide them by 4. That'll save me time. So I'm going to divide these both by 4. And I'm going to get 3/5. That's the answer, 3/5. Here's an example for you to do on your own. Go ahead and pause the video. Go to your notes on the how section and show how to do it. That's the last thing you're going to do. Then you're ready to go to the next station.